Was Trump wrongly convicted? Well, another new twist in the case involving Trump falsifying records in which he was found guilty on 34 counts. And the sentencing is set for sometime in July, 4 days before the Republican National Convention. They could have set the sentencing like 2 days after the verdict, but they did not. So there are some political, or there are some suggested political undertones as to why this date was selected. So I'm just going to set that thing aside for a moment. There was a stunning development in this case on Friday, and I'm going to describe to you about that. And this is involving a little bit of the way the judiciary works in the United States. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time explaining to you what happens. So as we go through this slide deck, I'll be pausing for a minute, explaining to you some of the steps, and then moving on. So I would really appreciate it if you can like this video, because it's an interesting exercise in how the justice system works in the United States. By the way, it used to be the same way in India also, until they canceled the jury system. So here we go. Was Trump wrongly convicted? Well, a very interesting story that has come up. The judge who sentenced him, Juan Merchan, presiding over the high-profile case, you remember that, and they were saying that he himself was conflicted, but all that went out. The jury got the papers. They deliberated for over 48 hours, and then they said that Trump was guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records. This is in connection with Stormy Daniels' hush money payment. Because of this conviction, Trump became the first US president to be found guilty of a felony charge. There are lots of firsts coming out. Then what happened? Well, the judge wrote to the lawyer saying, "Dear counsel, today the court became aware of a comment that was posted on the Unified Court System's public Facebook page, and which I now bring to your attention." In the comment, the user, Michael Anderson, states, "My cousin is a juror and says Trump is getting convicted. Thank you folks for all your hard work." The post was made 1 day before the historic verdict that saw Trump convicted. In other words, the jury, one of the members of the jury, spoke to his cousin and he said that he is going to get convicted. The Facebook comment, now a week old, was brought to the court's attention by Merchan on Friday, prompting an immediate review of its implications. I'm going to stop here for a second and explain to you what happens. See, the jury typically consists of 12 people, men and women, and there is a careful jury selection process. Typically, about 30 people are called in groups to select these 12. And in the selection process, the prosecution and the defense, they have, I think, 8 strikes, meaning they find a juror okay, but they may think that this guy may be slanted towards the other side. So they said, "I strike this juror off." But there is a limit. Only 8 times you can do that. The other side also can do it 8 times. Essentially, what happens is, after this striking off, after this, questioning, each juror is questioned extensively. Do you watch movies? What is your favorite book? Because they want to try and figure out your political leanings as to how you have any predisposed bias one way or the other. Very extensive stuff. I've been called for these things. It's very interesting because on the one side, you don't want to spend time sitting on the jury. On the other side, you do want to do it because it is your duty as a citizen of United States to do it. So this conflicting opinions and feelings that go through your mind, all in all, it's a very enjoyable experience. I have found it a lot of fun. But anyway, before all these things start, because the judge doesn't know who is going to be selected as a juror and who is going to be dismissed, he will say that when you are selected as a juror, you cannot use internet to read up about this case. So sometimes that comes out as you cannot read the internet, because as a juror, what happens is you are in the court from 8 to 5, for example. Then you go home, you go about your business, whatever business you have to go and do that. So I had asked the judge in one of such cases, I said, I mean, I live on the internet. I can't not use the internet. He said, no. It's only regarding this case that you cannot read up. So that is the first thing. The second thing is the jurors cannot say anything to the outside world while they are in the process of deliberating. In fact, they cannot talk about the case. In fact, if my memory serves me right, there's also a time period for a jury person to wait before they can even publish a book on that. Sometimes the jurors do write books about their experience in a particular case, especially if it's like a sensational case, like this one. Why did this person on the jury tell his cousin that Trump was getting convicted? Now, this came like a very innocuous thing, but the problem is it brings into question the integrity of the verdict. The comment suggests that the juror was convinced of Trump's guilt before the official verdict, creating new concerns about juror impartiality. See, that's the point. That is what the Trump's legal team is going to be arguing, and I suspect that's going to be happening on Monday. By the time you see this thing, it'll be Monday morning in many parts of the world, but in the United States, most likely this will be argued, and don't be surprised if this case is thrown out and it will be like a mistrial. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you what I think might happen. Let me not get too ahead of myself. If it is proven that any juror had preconceived notions or was influenced by outside information, it could undermine the entire jury's decision. This could lead to a mistrial or grounds for an appeal, as Trump's legal team might argue that their client's right to a fair trial was compromised. Any potential juror misconduct could trigger an investigation into the jury selection and deliberation process. Did like one side want a particular juror in the final seated panel of 12? See, these are all the questions. If you read John Grisham's books, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Fantastic explanation of the judicial process. This might involve interviewing jurors to determine the extent of any bias or external influence. So there are some things the court can do, but at the end of the day, such an investigation could delay the legal proceedings. High-profile cases such as this one and any hint of impropriety would lead to people losing faith in the judicial system. This development might fuel Trump's claims that he was unfairly targeted. Now, let's take a quick look at this particular person's page. Okay, this account is very lightly used. Michael Anderson. It had only 4 public records visible, 2 of them which are reposts of recipes, pecan pie or something like that. That was until last Friday, when posted a few times after his connection to the Trump trial was revealed. On his page, Anderson describes himself as a trans-abled and a professional shit poster. Many believe the whole situation is an unavoidable mess because the story of the comment has now reached the masses. Here is a copy of the letter that the judge wrote to the counsel, and you can see here, my cousin is a juror and says Trump is getting convicted. Thank you, folks, for all your hard work. So this is a bad thing for the prosecution, that is for the Democrats, because if Trump walks away from here, there is no way you can stop him from running for president. More importantly, that gives the Republicans a much needed boost to their efforts to get elected. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.